Welcome to another inspiring conversation with an amazing leader. I'm Marc Pitman, the author of The Surprising Gift of Doubt, which launches today. Yay! Thank you for being here, Kishshana. Today I get to talk to Kishshana Palmer, one of my favorite people on the planet, and one of she's the founder of the Rooted Collaborative. She has an amazing podcast that just finished its first season. Congratulations. I love listening to all the episodes, but your dad's episodes and the outtakes.
You're so good.
Was he that brilliant growing up?
Yes.
Okay.
And long-winded, which is where, I always tell people mine for both. And I get it honestly, both from my dad and my stepdad who passed last year. Both of them, oh my gosh, sometimes they've been giving us lectures, Marc. And I'd be like, just spank me already.
I'm done with the words. Just
done with the words.
That's awesome. Well, one of the things I love about you, and one of the reasons I was so excited that you said yes to celebrating today. You can sign up if you're watching on Amazon Live. You can sign up to our podcast right about here, but it's on all the socials. Let's Take This Offline is what it's called.
Yes.
So, is that you so fully own who you are when you're in a room speaking to a stage. Speaking to a crowd. The crowd. It's not that you're just individual for your own individuality's sake, but your authenticity brings everybody in the room with you. It's amazing to watch as a speaker. So how did you come to do that? Was that something you just naturally were? You were like that growing up, or? Yeah. Tell me about because that's not normal in the world. I mean, I wish it were more normal, but it's really cool to see. Yeah. Were there times where that they created a friction and opposition?
Oh, absolutely. So a couple of things that I think you will laugh at.
Okay, thanks for letting me know it's okay too.
Yes, of course. So I grew up in a very conservative religious family. I grew up Seventh-day Adventist, and so we spent a lot of our time at church. And so a lot of my formative years were in choir and in all the activities that our church family provided, which were a lot of activities. And so you must imagine the joy my parents felt when I came home this fateful day in third grade, having heard, Marc, for the very first time, the F word. And
not for fundamentalist. You're not talking about fundamentals. No, okay.
It's called for the and for me, it was like glory. Okay. It was so bad that no matter how many times I was on timeout, I got a punishment, I got a lecture, I got a spanking. It was soap. These are the olden days, Marc. Don't let this good skin fool you, Marc. That my parents, by the time I was in junior high school, finally gave up. So you were looking at big talker, big reader, big personality, class president, and yet not the most popular kid, but I was always with the most popular kids.
Huh.
So I wasn't always the one, but that story leads me to my debut. When my parents realized I could sing, I was 10 years old. They made it 10 whole years, Marc, a whole decade, without realizing I was in church every Wednesday, Saturday, Friday night, and Saturday, and no one realized I had this level of talent. The Scarecrow in The Wiz.
Wow.
That's a big role, big shoes.
Yeah.
So literally from my earliest days, I think I just always was like, I am a star. And my dad would always say, you're your only competition. There's nobody you compete with but yourself. Did you do your very best? And my parents were at work a lot. So they were very, very hardworking, new to the country. Well, my parents were here from their high school years, but, first generation. And so it was all about hard work and your education and your faith, family, and that level of responsibility and taking charge. And when you grow up in a really big family, he who talks loudest wins.
That is really, really cool. I loved hearing on your podcast how you talked about your daughter. Was it your daughter?
Yes.
Discovering the F word and using it appropriately?
Yes. And I was like, well, she used it appropriately in a sentence. There's nothing I can do about that. I'm sure her teacher was not pleased, because when you get that first note home and you're like, what did you do at school? And I was like, did you use it properly in a sentence? And do in other words.
See, we homeschooled, so when our kids would swear, it'd be like, did you learn that at school? Oh, yes, you did. Oh. I said that.
So I just try, Mark, as you know, you and I have spent time together over the years, and I just try everywhere you go, there you are. That's the bottom line. And so I just try to be my endeavor best on every day that I can. And on the days that I can't, I'm just not. And I think it shows. And so there are folks who know when Kishshana, they're like, oh, she's not feeling well, or she's not having a great day, or she is not pleased. And let me tell y'all, friends, if you ever want to doubt yourself, you end up on the end of Kishshana is not pleased. You'll be surprised, okay?
I did wear my polka dot tie, hoping maybe it was one of your polka dots that would you like go to fight for.
I love it. No, you should have texted me to tell me to put on polka dots, because I would have thrown up. And I thought about it for a second, Mark, but I said, that is the bow tie is your claim to fame. I love it.
Thank
you. I
did
not want to do anything other than be a beautiful backdrop to a wonderful occasion, which is your book launch.
Well, thank you so much. How I know I remember meeting you in the kind of fundraising space, and I love watching that you're a leadership person too, like I am. People knew me as a fundraiser, but I'm a leadership guy. What was it hard to reposition yourself, or was it just normal because that's how you were?
I mean, it's been tough because I think folks are excited for me to come into their organizations and work with their leadership, particularly their fundraisers, on how to show up powerfully, how to be able to make connections, how to be able to move transformational relationships. And by the way, you got to do that in your organization too. You know that, Marc, okay? And sometimes we end up treating the folks out there really well, and then we treat our folks at home a hot mess. We don't need to do that. And
we as solopreneurs too.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. You look up, and my kid just before we got online, the Queen Agent texted me like, my classes are done at 1:30. Are we walking today? Because clearly she's looked at my schedule to see there is a break to walk. So I've been warned.
That's awesome.
So for me, it has still been a tough transition. I got to share, because folks are excited for me to help them grow their organizational coffers so that they're able to do more work, so they're able to catapult their missions. But I really deeply believe that your greatest asset in your company or in your organization are your people, and that you can get really good at being skilled in your job and burn the people to get to the outcome.
Wow. Yeah. So how have you helped people not only figure out that you're the person to bring in, but also how do you help people within the organization? Because I do think a lot of us are so used to focusing on pleasing people out there that we forget to take care of the people that we're working with.
Yeah. So for me, I think the organizational leaders who tend to bring me in or bring one of my team members in are folks who are at the point of inflection where they know they need to do something different. So I am not the consultant that you want to bring in for your status quo stuff. You want to just get somebody to confirm the same mess you've been doing every year, you hire somebody else, not me or Marc, okay? We don't do that. So I'm not that person, no. And if you're not looking for a party in the workplace when you're getting hard stuff done, because you can bring some joy in a beginner's mind, and you can bring those lived lessons to a new experience and be able to do different work. So I look for clients and organizations who are ready to be bold within their organizations, the same way they're ready to be bold with their missions to do game-changing work. And I don't want you tiptoeing with your people, because you're not tiptoeing to have impact in your community. And I want that same zest. And so those are the folks that I seek out, and those are typically the folks that seek me out. And the ways that I have found to be most successful is as much as I'm chatty, I'm a good listener, and I love good systems. And I know your framework is something that it just hits the mark. And it's helped me over the years. Listen, I'm like Marc Pitman's framework, but being able to have a system as a container to then be able to flex and to try new things and to be able to step forward into spaces where you're not quite sure, but you have just, you think about when you were learning to bowl and you have those guardrails up, like bumper rails sides, and you need those for a while you're trying to figure out how to get your
that wasn't the goal? We weren't supposed to hit those channels?
You're not supposed to hit the channels.
Oh, that's why it
was not the ping pong game. So sometimes you need a good framework to give you the space to bump along until you kind of figure those things out and you get that right. And so bringing that vigor and that rigor of having some good systems and some good frameworks that allow you to be able to have some space to play, I think allows me to be able to help organizational leaders and down to their midline staff who you need to be able to grow up in your organizations to really be able to step forward in their management day-to-day journey, that sort of block and tackle, and then in their leadership practice, which is out there in the world and in themselves and with their folks.
I love that. The idea of a framework gives you the space to flex, because I think a lot of people feel really confined by a framework because they feel like it's a formula. But I think that that's really a really good definition or nuance that you gave to it. Tell me about the Rooted Collaborative. I was fascinated when I saw it. You know, I love the space that you're creating for people there in the community you're creating. What was the genesis of that, and how's it going today through the pandemic?
So I started consulting like for real with no net in 2015. And I realized that a lot of my relationships were like kiddie pool shallow. So I knew lots of folks, but I wasn't really connected to anybody. I couldn't name people's children and the last time we hung out. And I didn't have all these experiences I was seeing. And then I realized if I went one step further, I didn't have that with folks who looked like me either. And so talk about like lonely, you know, I was just out there by myself. And so by 2018, being on the road and being a speaker, constantly, I was meeting folks all the time who were having that similar experience and naming for me that they were just longing to be able to not pass folks and go, I want to talk, but I don't know what to say. And so in 2018, up in Canada, the Black Canadian fundraisers invited me to a dinner they hosted for me. And we just got to talking. And I was like, you know, we got to start something. And then more and more women from other cultural and ethnic backgrounds said, oh, you're not going to leave me out. Oh, no. Coming too. For real. And I said, oh, hey, I got to know, because you have to be, you know, when you're thinking about intraculturally, right, you have to be sensitive to how those dynamics have played over the years. And then when you think about it globally, it looks different in every part of the world. And so how do you answer to the need for community? Where community really should feel local, even if it's global. And so we had to find our way in that. And so where the Rooted Collaborative is now, we are a global community for Black and Brown women who are primarily fundraisers, but are increasingly in marketing, communications, operations, you name it, in the social sector around the world, who are really interested in the idea that in order to be able to do our jobs well, to be able to show up powerfully in our work, you've got to take care of yourself first. Then you've got to ensure that you have stability and you have a trajectory of growth and health for yourself and your family. And you have to make sure that you have the professional skill, will, and desire to be able to grow and thrive in our sector.
I mean, all of those things right there are things that seem to be so chronically missing in the nonprofit sector in particular, but I even see this in companies too, where people, I don't know if they think it's servant leadership, where they just kind of dump on themselves, or put, you know, they eat last or they do their stuff last. But in all the conversations I've been doing so far, self-reflection, doing your own work, taking care of personal leadership seems to be a turning point for leaders. So how do you set the stage for people to be able to feel comfortable doing that? Because it can feel kind of like you're irresponsible. I'm not focusing on the people around me. I'm focusing on me. And is that what I'm supposed to do?
And I would say absolutely. Oftentimes when we think about focusing on ourselves, we have gotten to a place of like you're drinking a cup of coffee, right? To that empty cup that we want to snatch back the time. So instead of being intentional with making sure that my palate is properly moist, I'm nourished, I'm well, I've done my green juice, now let me go and do the thing. We're like, oh my gosh, I've been running for so long and I'm so sick of being able to do that. I'm going to go take time for myself. So we see taking time for ourselves, even from that deficit perspective. And that's why, to me, it feels so hard to really sort of prioritize yourself before you step out to do things for other people, because it feels like the pendulum is either one way or another.
Yeah.
But I would say being able to take care of yourself is a responsible thing to do as a leader, because part of being a transformational leader is that other people are looking to you for that vision and for that pace setting. Yeah. And if what you're modeling is run yourself ragged to the bone, do all the things for everyone else, and then you wonder why people fear you, but don't necessarily respect you, kind of respect you, but definitely don't like you, what are you modeling?
Or if you wonder why, I tell them to take their PTO and their time off or whatever, and I tell them to not work after 5, and I tell them to do these things. Why aren't they doing it? Because you're not modeling it. Yeah, that's your midnight emails and all those other things. Yeah. Sometimes those are strategic. I know I've had jobs where I've strategically sent an email at like 11:30 p.m. just so that they would see, because it was this it wasn't toxic. It was a misguided sense of I'm on the job. I'm responsible.
Yeah.
But I've taken to, I don't know if you do this, I've taken to, especially in the book launch phase of saying, I'm hoping you're not reading this till Monday. Like I knew I couldn't get it to Monday, but I wanted to get rid of something. And I would sometimes put the subject label for Monday because I don't want to perpetuate, well, first of all, other people feeling like I expect them to respond in 24 hours. And I don't want them to think that it's going to be reciprocated. Like their email on the weekend. I may not see it.
I saw somebody put in their byline, I'm sending this email at a time that is convenient for me. And I'd love a response from you at the time that is convenient for you. And I was like, oh, that was a very powerful, like, got you. I have another person who I know who has email office hours. And so in all of her auto replies, it says, my email office hours are on this day, and this day from this time to this time.
Wow.
If you're a current client and this is an emergency, which constitutes X, Voxer me. That she has like a way for folks to contact her. All right. And so to me, that is a healthy modeling. It's also a boundary. It's also a way that particular person put themselves first. And I think people who work in organizations don't think they can do those things, but you actually can. You know, yes. It starts small. It might start small, but sometimes it's the own sort of like mental block that we have of ourselves. And, you know, things I love in stories in your book about the ways in which that we doubt ourselves and the ways in which that we second guess ourselves and the ways in which that, you know, even for imposter syndrome, how it shows up in weird and uncomfortable ways is so important for us to be able to name it and then decide so that we can do something else.
Well, yeah, part of what I found myself saying in a lot of the interviews is, what if that the doubt? What if it's not that you're broken? What if the doubt is the invitation of saying, what if I'm perfectly situated for this situation? What if my organization is the perfect response? Exactly what our sector needs? How would that look?
How would that look? Woo!
And I feel like you do that in the work that you do. With the Rooted Collaborative, I'm intrigued by, it's not all senior leaders, the way you said it.
No.
Okay.
No.
So has there been experience over the years that you're free to share of how middle managers, because I think there's this myth where people think that, oh, I'm not the CEO, I'm not the executive director, so I can't lead, which but you can always lead yourself. There's always some area of influence you have. So how are people using what they learned in the Rooted Collaborative to try to impact? Are they finding it impacts their cultures around them or just?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So one of the things I think is interesting, particularly from our younger professionals, and those are our folks who have less than, 5 to 7 years of experience. And about half of our members are there and about half split out into CEOs, senior VPs, EVPs. So we have a really good mix.
Wow.
Are ways in which they're able to advocate for themselves earlier. Ways in which they're able to identify places that they need to be able to form alliances, or they need to be able to lead from the middle, how to lead from the middle within their organizational context, and then also how to unpack what their organizational culture really is, as opposed to what they want it to be. Therefore, that's the measuring stick. And then being able to decide, is that the thing I really want to sign up for? So I think what we find with a lot of our middle managers at the collaborative, and I think that you would find this in any sort of like early stage professional to mid stage professional, is about that agency. Do I actually have the power to decide before I get to I quit? And understanding, particularly in the environment we're in today, where organizations are trying to paddle really hard underwater to really diversify, not just in rank and file, but also in your executive ranks. And that from a practice perspective, there's still so much work to be done. How do you grow, and how do you articulate the places in which you can be impactful and not allow some of the things that are happening around you to happen to you?
Oof.
because those are the body blows that some of our more seasoned professionals, when they join the collaborative and they are 15 years, 20 years like me and 25 years in, it's like a Super Mario game, Mark, that boom, 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 boom. You're taking all the body from the mushrooms. They're just everywhere. And you're blinking. You're blinking. You know, and you're blinking. Have I just aged us?
You have, but fortunately, my wife just got one of the Super Mario games, and so I'm right there with you again. Because I've been shrunk and I've been beaten up and pushed around.
Right. And so that's one of the things that I think ends up happening. And so since our gift is being able to help women really be able to own their ability to fortify themselves earlier, more often, and in a healthier way, so that they feel more inculcated going into work environments that I've got to tell you, there are lots of organizations, love your mission, but your place is not psychologically safe. Not for you Black and brown folks. Some of your managers love you. You're wonderful humans in the world. I'm sure you are doing a wonderful job in your day job. Also, your employees do not feel safe. And it's part of our responsibility as leaders to really understand psychological safety, to really understand how we show up. So that introspection that you were talking about from other speakers who come in, that self-reflection, really being able to slow down just enough to really navigate that and to really be able to do something about that for ourselves, I think is super duper important. And I do think it really starts with being able to understand what it means to you to be an exceptional leader.
Wow. Kishshana, I could talk for hours with you, and I'm super excited that our episode of the podcast will be coming out. Subscribe to somewhere down here or wherever you get your podcasts. I was like walking on a cloud after that episode. I had so much energy. So subscribe to Let's Take It Offline with Kishshana Palmer. Go to Kishshana Co. Is that where the Rooted Collaborative also the information is?
Collaborative.com is its own home. So just therootedcollaborative.com to find out more what we're doing. Our retreat this summer, the Rooted Retreat, is coming, therootedretreat.com. We're inviting, there's going to be probably 900 women or so that we're inviting to join us in an at-home retreat. And last year, Marc, it was ridiculous.
How did it work? Because I remember seeing the promotions for it.
Oh my gosh!
And you had to do it.
We had about 350 people. We had an amazing people were up with us from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Wow.
Okay, and rocking and rolling for 3 days, and so it was just so good. And so this year we're bringing it back bigger, better. Really, all of our things are designed to both increase our skill as professionals, but also our will to be able to do the work that we're called to do, and to be able to build a community that'll hold us accountable, but also hold us up as you navigate the work. Because being a fundraiser, if that's your chosen profession, is hard work. Then stepping into a management and a leadership role within an organizational construct, hard work. So you need a minute.
And you provide that, which I thought was brilliant, that there seemed like there was self-care stuff that, as well as, and I love the advice, the accountable, but also hold you up, because sometimes we can always be seeking for accountability. But we need people that will also be cheering in our corner.
Absolutely. And so we're excited to triple our numbers this year. We're excited to be able to invite back our sponsors and to new sponsors who are going to come in to be able to make sure more women are able to join us. You are among the folks from last year, so we so appreciate you. And just continuing to do great work in our sector. We deserve to have really amazing leaders who are able to use their lessons lived to be able to continue to elevate the work that we do in our sector.
That is, yes. So go to KishshanaCo.com, go to the Rooted Collaborative, get on your podcatcher, Let's Take It Offline. And Kishshana, thank you so much for helping me celebrate the release of this book.
Y'all buy so many copies of this book.
Thank you. Bye, Kishshana.